It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Welcome to back to the program. We've got Senator Scott Flippo from District 17 is on the line. Scott, how are you this morning?
Paul, good morning.
Good
Happy to be
morning.
with you.
Yes, sir. It's always great to have
you
on.
Are you a big 90210 fan?
Well, not really. I mean, I think it was a little past before my time. You know, I had two older sisters. I think it was kind of more in their wheelhouse. But I remember, like, theme music. Like, I remember the theme music to Dallas. You know, I wasn't a big Dallas fan. Go ahead.
You're talking to probably the world's authority on Dallas.
Oh, really?
Like, I found out the other day that you can actually watch that on Amazon Prime.
Ooh, interesting.
So there go my Sunday.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, yeah. Well, now, I mean, I've got Prime. I'm going to have to check it out. I just liked the theme songs. Like, I like all of the theme songs. I like the theme songs to...
There will never be another show that ever comes close to Dallas, Paul. And that's not my opinion. That's just fact.
That's just a fact. That's just an objective truth. You heard it today on Conduit News Radio from Senator Scott Flippo.
Well, how are you, Paul?
I'm doing good. So, impression of the session, 2019. Let's just start generally. Senator Flippo, sure. What was your impression of the session?
Paul, I always think that asking a legislator their impression of the session is like asking a new parent if their baby is the most beautiful baby in the world. Of course, I think overall was a pretty good session. You know, we accomplished some pretty good things. Let me start off with some things that I and a few of my colleagues in the House worked on. Representative Bentley and I got a bill passed that is going to require work requirements for food stamp beneficiaries. That's a great thing.
Yes.
We got clarity on gun rights, specifically permitless carry for open or concealed. And that was something that Representative Brandt spearheaded over in the House, and then I carried that same resolution over in the Senate. And for some Arkansans that still believe that Act 746 was ambiguous and needed clarification, that's exactly what we did. We also spent, the past 18 months leading up to this session working on our state procurement laws. And, you have an educated listening audience, and so they understand that procurement is how the state spends their money. And we spent 18 months looking on that. That came up with 67 recommendations. We condensed that down to 6 bills, and we got each one of those passed. The other thing that kind of got some traction at the end of the session was legal notices and not requiring counties and cities and school districts to post those in the newspaper, and they could do it online. Well, that's a pretty big one to me because that's your money that these entities are paying to put these legal notices in the newspaper. Of course, the newspapers did not like that, and they fought it tooth and nail. But as I told them during my testimony, this bill was not going to be the dagger to their industry, which they claimed. I said that was the internet and Twitter that was the dagger for you all. This just says that we're not going to pay for your life support.
Yeah, I bet they didn't like that at all. You took a lot of hate for that, by the way.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed that when I ran that bill, that all of a sudden, whenever there was an article about me in the paper, they used about the worst possible photo they can find.
Yeah,
I found it somewhat humorous, but the overall, the overall is, why should we, as taxpayers, be responsible for subsidizing, the newspaper industry, the media? Why is it our responsibility to subsidize their business model? Because that's what this came down to. And unfortunately, the newspapers still have a little bit of clout, and they were able to get this bill stalled up to the point where I had to amend it to allow for they could advertise online as well as in the news and also in the newspaper. What I wanted to do was do it solely online, but I had to settle for allowing them to do online and newspaper. But we're going to give it a go in another 2 years.
Wow. Well, I definitely know that, I mean, like I said, I remember that. As a matter of fact, I think I ran into you in the halls of the Capitol right when you were heading to run that bill. We're talking with Senator Scott Flippo from District 17, which is a district in north central Arkansas, which is beautiful country up there.
Beautiful.
So I want to ask you this. I know there were some good things done. Senator, we were just talking with Mark Johnson, Senator Stubblefield's Sanctuary Cities bill, trying to...
That was a great bill.
That was fantastic. But let's talk about taxes for a second. And I know we had you on previously to talk a little bit about this. and I get some of the arguments for people that voted for, the tax increases for roads. But this is the first question. Do you think when it's all said and done, you got income taxes, you have all these other taxes, you think the people of Arkansas are going to be paying more money to the government?
We're just talking about the gas tax or overall?
Well, just say overall, when like fiscal year 2020, you think the people are going to be paying more to the government than they were?
I think there's a chance they will, Paul. And I'll tell you why. A big part of that is obviously the e-fairness, the internet tax. And nobody can tell me definitively what that collection's going to be. So we had a corporate income tax, measure built into that bill, which is, obviously politics. Hard to vote against an income tax cut. As you and your listeners know, the Supreme Court ruled, I guess it was last year, that states have the ability to collect sales tax from businesses outside of their state boundaries. And so, I've heard several projections from DFNA on what they expected, those collections to be. Of course, when you're trying to pass a bill, I think they're always going to try to, to give you numbers that's going to show that it's going to be a net reduction. But I don't put it out of the realm of possibility that you're going to see an increase in sales tax collection that's going to increase, that's going to be more than what this corporate income tax reduction is going to be. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah. Well, and plus you have the situation where, and this is just the way the bills were written. Hey, this is the nature of government. Your gas tax gets collected in October of this year, begins. The internet sales tax starts collecting in July of this year, but we don't see the income tax cut fully develop or the corporate income tax fully develop for a few years down the road.
Sure, I think it's like 2020.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's more than that, but
21?
Further than that. Yeah, but it's kind of a phase in, and so that's
it is.
Go ahead.
No, it is. And the biggest thing I try to do with people is to be honest with them. I mean, when I ran for the Senate in 14, one of the lines that I used is that I was tired of a government that would peel my leg and tell me that it was raining. I might not like everything that you're telling me, but at least just lay it out to me and give me the truth, instead of patronizing me and trying to, spin it to something that sounds more appealing than what it is.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's good, and I know that you've always done that, and I get it. I that this is the part of the session economically. Like, I can get behind the income tax cut. I think it was great. I mean, and I like that it was a clean bill. I think it's going to be good to take us from 6.9 to 5.9. The structure of it's going to make us more competitive. But I look at overall, if you combine it all, and I'm like, well, I wish. Let me ask you this: Do you wish at all that maybe there would have been more of a discussion about reducing spending, so we didn't have to ask the people to pay more in taxes?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, I don't know if the discussion that you're referring to, but that's part of what we did with our procurement process and overall is that, how the state spends, the taxpayers' money. Looking at that and making those, hard determinations. And, that was one of the things that when I ran, I co-sponsored Representative Bentley's food stamp bill that, called for work requirements. One of my colleagues in the Senate questioned me and said that, are you aware, Senator Flippo, of all these economic deserts in the state of Arkansas? And I said, I am aware that there's places.
You mean like a food desert? Is that what you're saying?
No, like a job desert, like economic desert.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so, what this bill calls for is it said, you either had to get a job, you had to participate in workforce training, or you could volunteer. But I made a point and said, if you can't get a job where you live, then it's time to look, to think about relocating. And you just would have thought the sky was falling. And I said that to a point, which is it our job again as taxpayers to pay for somebody to stay somewhere where they cannot find a job. Mm-hmm. And you talk about, spending cuts and spending reductions. I mean, that's kind of what that is geared towards.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. I think I think in the future we've got to address spending. April, let me get your thoughts on this in hindsight. Okay, so in the hindsight of your impression of the session, we had a report where the revenue for the month of April, was just, it was a great month for the state, right? And there was like $125 million, Senator Flippo, more than they anticipated. I mean, that's a ton of money right there. What did you think about that?
So I think government's always going to be, as conservative with their forecasts when they're predicting their revenues, for a year, for a month. That was an exceptionally high month, and I don't know exactly, what to attribute that uptick for. But when you look at that, I think part of that needs to be is how can we get that money, some of that money, back to the taxpayers?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it's reasonable when you have those kinds of surpluses. Now, what I think is important is there have been recent months where our forecast, where our revenues have been below forecast. So this is not to say that every month we have $100+ million above forecast. But when we do have, times like that, be them a month or multiple months, it is incumbent upon us, and that's when we've done away with the general improvement funds, is to say when you have these surpluses at the end of the year, as a Republican, it talks about tax cuts and less government. How can we get that money back to the people?
Yeah.
And Paul, this is a good point that I want to kind of tie into the internet tax. And you kind of correct me if you think that my thought process on this is wrong.
Okay.
Is, a couple of years ago, before the Supreme Court had ruled this, that was kind of one of the objections that was raised, was this wasn't even, this wasn't even allowed under law for a state, for Arkansas to collect, or any other state to collect, sales tax on a corporation that was outside of the state boundaries. Now, of course, they've thrown that out. And then they said that it is legal. And then we put in this corporate income tax reduction. But I think the overall thing is that people feel that the only way to shrink government is to starve what you feed it. And we don't really care where that comes from. But if we're going to shrink government, it has to have less. You think is that a correct analysis, do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean...
And not just for you, but for one of your listeners.
No, I mean, I agree. I think our tax policy in Arkansas drives spending. I think the Revenue Stabilization Act is fantastic in terms of keeping us from running like a deficit, but it also sort of ensures that whatever they get, they're going to spend. You know what I'm saying? So, if you starve it, like you said, you're going to, force them to do what they got to do with less money.
Yeah, and I think that's the only way, that you can ever shrink government. Now, this bill was it was messaged as the e-fairness. Of course, you're never going to call it the internet sales tax. It's going to be the e-fairness bill. Mm-hmm. Now, Paul, you've been around the marble halls long enough to know that they're not going to call it an internet tax.
Of course not.
Now, do I think that this is going to change people's shopping patterns? I really don't. I think people, as time progresses, more and more people are changing the way that they shop, and that means that they're moving more and more towards online. So, they said that this was a main street fairness, and I think that is a reasonable argument that if you have a brick and mortar in your hometown that's selling the same good that you can go to Amazon and get, but they're required to charge you a sales tax on there.
Yeah,
it's not really fair to them, and they're paying local taxes in your communities for your schools, your libraries, your roads.
Yeah.
Look, your police and fire.
Look, I want to hit two more things before we go because we're running out of time. But we're talking with Senator Scott Flippo. Now, you're talking about the internet tax. So, and we've already mentioned this before. We've said this on here before. You voted for that bill because the corporate tax cut that was put with that, right?
You bet.
Okay, so but then you voted against the continuation of the levy of the 0.5% sales tax for you, so meaning it's set to sunset, and you voted against referring that back to the people. So tell me why you voted against that.
Biggest reason is when that was put before the people, I guess 6 years ago. The way that it was sold to them is that it's going to sunset in 10 years. And now, surprise, surprise, Paul, as we're about 3 or 4 years out from it, sunsetting, well, we still have a need for that money, and we want to keep that money coming in. Well, then why did you tell people to get it past the first time that it was going to sunset?
Right.
And, so I had a kind of a principled objection to that. And the other thing I think is that, yeah, it's easy for me as a legislator to want to vote on something to refer to the people and not have to vote on myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the people send us down there to make difficult decisions, and sometimes, an unpopular decision, you have to deal with those ramifications, whatever they may be, as long as you think it was the right thing to do. So, I voted for that gas tax, and I voted against this. That was a difficult decision. I thought it was the right one at the end of the day, or I wouldn't have done it. But, I don't think the people sent me down there to try to farm out difficult parts of my job.
Well, oh, you mean, yeah, like to the people. Yeah, no, I mean, and, now it's like you said, you think it was the right thing to do, and now, you can take your argument, to the people and explain why, and that's part of this whole process. And so, last question, and we've got a little bit of time left. So towards the end of the session, we had the Arkansas work requirements by a federal judge were thrown out, and now that's being challenged, right? So what were your thoughts on that? Because
it's not being challenged. I mean, they've thrown them out.
Yeah, they've thrown them out. I mean, the decision is being appealed. Is what I.
Yeah, it's being appealed. Correct.
So I guess my question is, did you find it odd, Senator Flippo, that you guys in the Senate voted on the appropriation a mere minutes before the news came out that the signature domestic achievement Arkansas works. The work requirements are no longer in effect.
Yeah, let me tell you this, Paul. I do not believe in coincidences in politics. And that's a pretty generalized answer. But, no, that was no coincidence.
Yeah.
And the fear that if that didn't get done, that there would be a great struggle to get it passed if they didn't do that before the courts, handed down their verdict. And you're right. I mean, it was literally minutes after we voted on that verdict came down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the most obvious thing. And even when we were able to, when we adjourned session to go over the budget, to get that, because they wanted to get that out, everybody knew that verdict was getting ready to be delivered at any minute. So there was a rush to get that done.
Yeah. And that's frustrating, right? I mean, you find that frustrating because, you guys only have constitutional power once every 2 years for issues like this, or if the governor calls a special session. And so, rushing to avoid the potential controversy, I don't know, that just kind of seems a little underhanded. What do you think?
I think that it was going to pass either way. I think that had you waited, it would have been more difficult. That's not to say impossible. I think that they would have eventually gotten the votes. But yeah, I think that's the again, an important part of it is not just talking about what you want to talk about, but talking about the things you need to talk about. And for us to have to come back and talk about Arkansas Works, and that's giving free insurance to able-bodied working-age adults. That's what it is. And that now we're not even going to have work requirements on there. That's not going to be popular here in Arkansas, but if we're going to continue it, let's at least have that conversation about why we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't had. I mean, it was kind of rushed, and, that is what it is.
Well, to your point about eventually getting the votes, you're probably right. I mean, the House was able to hold it up. They did, and then they waited 24 hours or whatever, and then they had the vote. So to your point, that you're probably right. I just thought it was interesting to see, people are like, well, we don't want to have this debate again. But anyway, I
think it's weird that when you do that, it just, in my opinion, Paul, that when you do something like that, it just lends more credence to kind of the shakiness of the overall policy. Which, if it's such a rock solid policy, why would you need to rush it like that to begin with?
That's a really good point. Senator Scott Flippo, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your thoughts and spending some time with us this morning.
Paul, I appreciate you, your listeners. Keep up the good work and have me on again. Look forward to it.
All righty. Senator Scott Flippo, everybody. We're going to take a break. Going to be back here in just a moment.